Hey guys, so I hope that this setup is okay. I don't really have great lighting in this part of my kitchen, so I just wanted to get on here and talk about how to cut things appropriately, why you cut things certain ways, and how to cut particular food. Obviously, I don't have every food ever available to me right at this moment, but I do have a few things to show you that can kind of apply to a lot of different food. So let's start with the baby carrots. Obviously, with baby carrots, you really don't want to give these without quartering them. Now, when I'm being super lazy, I'll dig through the little baby carrot bag and I'll find these little bitty ones and I'll give these to my daughter to just kind of like chew on, and these are not choking hazards. But when you get up here to these big baby carrots, cooked or raw, you really don't want to give these without quartering them. So what I normally do, and hopefully you can see this, I'm sorry about the shadows, but obviously you want to quarter, so I just chop that way, and then this is still really round, so you want to go back and then chop lengthways again. So you just want to go back and chop lengthways again, like that. So these pieces are appropriate for baby to pick up and eat, these ones right here. You never want to give these whole carrots raw or cooked. It's just a choking hazard. So any foods shaped like this, long and round, like either of these, you really want to quarter lengthways. You do not want to quarter them, or you do not want to chop them, you know, like this, and then give the little round circles, because these are also choking hazards. So you really want to quarter them and give them long ways like this. So another thing that people ask about is like things like cheese sticks. Obviously, for a cheese stick, you don't have to use a knife. You can just rip it. If this were like a sausage or something, you really want to do the same as you did with the carrots. You really want to cut lengthways, and then you want to do it again the other way, just so it's long and skinny and there's no risk of choking. Just like that. And that is the best way to serve things like sausages, hot dogs, any vegetables like cucumber or any of those other round, long vegetables like this. You really want to make sure that you quarter lengthwise. And sometimes for those really big vegetables, you might want to quarter again. For those, you can also, the really big, thick, like cucumber, you can do the coins this way. That's fine as long as they're really skinny. So you can cut them this way and do the big giant coins, but you really sometimes want to cut those in half even. If you cut a coin and it's bigger than this circle right here, so it doesn't fit in here, like if you cut a coin off of like a, cucumber, and it, it's bigger than this, you can give it whole. If not, you probably want to half it, and that's just a good rule of thumb. For things that are small and round, such as grape tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, grapes, anything like that, any small foods, including blueberries. We also recommend this for blueberries. Blueberries, I recommend you really just squish them with the back of a fork, or sometimes I take them and just tear them apart really fast. That's easy for us for blueberries. I also recommend getting one of these. It's a grape cutter. These are a little old and they need to go in the trash, so they might not cut very well because they're a little squishy. But the grape cutter is amazing. You just take it and push. Yeah, and I knew it would make a mess. They're really squishy right now. But it will quarter it for you really easily. So I highly recommend this little thing. You get quarters out of these. Cutting in half is still, in my opinion, just not enough. And it's really a pain to actually use a knife for these things. I prefer my little gadget. You can get this on Amazon. It was like less than $10. But yeah, you really want to make sure you quarter these, so I would cut that again. And never serve grapes whole, even if you peel them. Some people think, oh, I take the peel off. That's like so time consuming. Do not do that. Really just, quarter them. So cut in half and then cut in half again. And also do not cut just this way. You don't want to cut just like that, because that is still round and still very much a choking hazard. So make sure you don't do that. Okay, now we're going to talk about apples and how I like to serve them. Some people like to do wedges, like just traditional apple wedges. I don't like to do that, and that's just my personal opinion. Sometimes I'll give my daughter an apple whole, so I'll sometimes I'll eat the outside, and then I'll give her the rest of the apple. And she likes to hold the whole thing and chew on it. There's videos of that. If you search my name and then apple or pear, you'll see my daughter chewing down on apples and pears. But other ways I like to serve them is I like to cut them almost like a tomato. So I like to do wedges. They can be a little thicker than that. That was just, you know, like this. So I like to give like round wedges like that. My daughter tears those up. My son likes those too. That is a good way. You can also do wedges. You can also give it like this. You can just cut off a side like that and then give it to baby so that they can eat this part. It's all personal preference. That's how I like to do it. Obviously, you don't want to give chunks of apple, so you don't want to give, you know, like a piece like this. You really do. This is not appropriate for baby-led weaning baby. Apples are really, really firm fruits. And especially in the beginning, that is a choking hazard in my opinion. You really need to give pieces like this. Okay, now we're going to talk about bread or anything like that. Toast, bread, pancakes, anything like that. For a beginning baby-led weaning baby, I prefer to cut like this. Usually I can get about 4 pieces out of a slice of bread, and that's how I like to serve them. So baby can take these pieces and they can hold one end and chew on the other end, and it's perfect for baby. You can also give it as a whole piece of toast or a whole pancake or whatever, but the issue with that I come into is if they drop that whole piece, it's gone. And so this way, if they drop this piece, at least they have 3 pieces left, right? That's the only issue I see with giving a whole piece of toast, and it's easier. Once they get a little older, you can cut it up, you know, again this way and then again this way, and then you can have smaller little squares that they can pick up and work on their fine motor skills once they're a little bit older and they've established chewing a little bit better. That's also good. These are just little pieces of fruit here from like a little fruit cup. The issue with these for a beginner is it's hard for baby to pick up the little pieces like this. They don't really have the motor skills, and what they'll do is they'll end up raking big handfuls of them and putting them in their mouth, which is fine, but you really want to wait until they establish that pincer's grasp really, really well to give them pieces like this. It's easier to give the big wedges or the big pieces like this or like this so they can hold onto one end and then chew on the other. It's much less frustrating for them. Eventually, by 10 months to a year, your baby is going to really establish that pincer's grasp, and they're going to be able to eat things like this as long as they started baby-led weaning right at 6 months old or whenever they were ready and they established, you know, their chewing and everything, and then it's safe. So anyways, I hope that this covers most food. Obviously, I didn't have every single food in the world here, but if you have any questions, please let me know. The basic premise of this is don't serve anything small and round. You know, as long as everything's cut appropriately, everything is fine for baby-led weaning baby. So things like chicken, you can also serve in strips, or you can shred it up. Hopefully this helps. Strips is the best way to serve, especially in the beginning for the first 2 or 3 months. Then you can move into smaller pieces, and, you know, from there you can get smaller and smaller until you work into using forks and spoons and stuff like that. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you again in my next video.